the moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Jeff Nerfherder Chandler, Jim Kaiju Baker, and Mike Mjolnir Evans. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
Yeah, let's go. So this week, Jeff, welcome. We are a duo.
Hey, Jim. This is the Jeff and Jim show.
It is. Yeah. Mike is on vacation from us.
And Mike.
So he is he is just arriving. I think his plane got in a matter of hours ago, so we're allowing him to sleep in this morning. So he is not with us.
Boo. He had plenty of time on the plane to do all of his homework.
He could have. I'm sure he had some kind of device he could watch this stuff on.
Listen, all for the show, right? We've made it happen.
Yes.
Just for you, our listeners, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for listening. All our new listeners that may have discovered us through Podcoin, welcome.
Yes, we are TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind.
So this week we are returning to streaming. We're going to Amazon Prime, and we are going to discuss the show Good Omens, which has a lot of good buzz, and we'll see if that continues on to this show. It doesn't always. That's
true. We do not follow the masses.
No, we don't. And speaking of not following the masses, I'm sure that our opinions of our classic feature are going to differ a bit from reviewers in 1985. We are going to cover Legend this week.
Very excited for that.
Yeah, and not the Legend with Tom Hardy playing dual roles as Reggie and Ronnie Cray. This is the Tom Cruise Legend.
The Cray-Crays.
The Cray-Cray, yeah. Yes. So before we get into it, which I very much want to do we have any news?
We do have some news, so let's get into it. We seem to be talking about this every week, but Galaxy's Edge is now officially opened out in Disneyland. Jim, you're set. You're going, right?
Oh, I'm going. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm tasking you with a mission. People are stealing items and already selling them on eBay.
I saw something about this. I'm shocked that there are things that you can actually pick up and take.
Well, but it's not like things that you're buying in the gift store. It's flatware, plates, coasters, maps. And you want to know right now the number one big ticket item on eBay for $190 is the spork you can get with your food at the Docking Bay 7 Food and Cargo.
Are these like metallic utensils?
Yeah, they look. It's asymmetrical. So if anybody's ever walked into KFC in the last 10 years, it's a spoon with the little serrated teeth at the end of it, but they're off to the edge. But yeah, they're metallic. So it's a very unique design. But 190. So these are throwaways. This is like Sporky. Sporky's like, I was meant to be thrown away. I'm garbage. Maybe it was good for a bantha steak, but so anyways, people are selling them. I don't know if people are buying them, but they're selling them. So I'm tasking you.
There must be a sit-down restaurant there then. If there's actually...
Well, that's what, yeah, they're saying this does Docking Bay 7 Food Cargo. I don't know what it's like. It's got to be some kind of outdoor food venue. So you need to bring me back a spork.
I'll see what I can do. By that time, Disney will probably wise up and replace everything with plastic and paper plates. So,
well, I think they are plastic, but they're just like metallic plastic.
Oh.
You know, like that.
So they're not meant to be returned then. So there's no crime going on here, right?
I guess not. I mean, they're probably disposable.
Yeah.
I don't think that they would go to the extent of giving you real flatware. But we'll stay on Galaxy's Edge for 1 second, which is, you know, I'm getting these mixed reviews about what's going on there since the park has opened. Because in one day I'll read this article which is claiming that the park is empty, that there's nobody there. And then I read this other where it reached full capacity 20 minutes after it opened. So I don't really know what's going on.
Well, I am hoping that it's the former. I really don't want to be wrestling with crowds waiting 3 hours to view the inside of the Millennium Falcon. So
Right.
if it's empty, then I'm all for that. I scheduled my vacation to happen in September, which is supposedly a slow time at Disneyland in California.
Yeah, my fear is that everybody did that.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm not going the first 2 weeks. It's going to be crazy. And then that's exactly what happened. Everybody shied away from that opening 2-week window, especially once they announced that they were going to keep you to a 4-hour park visit. Why am I doing that?
So you can only stay in Galaxy's Edge for 4 hours, and then
this was. I think this was like the first 2 weeks, though. It was like a little imposed, keep the crowds moving kind of a thing.
Yeah. Or is it that that oft repeated phrase, franchise fatigue?
I don't even want to hear that. Anyway, so bring us back a bunch of sporks. We're going to fund this podcast for another 12 years.
Yeah, I will.
Galaxy's Edge sporks.
Now that I know this, I'm going to keep my eyes open.
Maybe we should brand them, put a little TMI logo on there, and off we go.
Or maybe I should bring like little tiny stickers and put them on the sporks and put them back.
Yeah, that's all we need is someone to choke on the sticker and sue us. Whatever happened to that podcast? Oh, yeah, that was litigated out of existence.
Yep.
So, news item number 2. Taika Waititi. Again, this guy shows up in our news like every other week, but I think it's just because I want to say his name, Taika Waititi.
And he is just so awesome as Korg in Ragnarok.
He's got such a unique voice. We really haven't seen someone like this since maybe Tim Burton back in the late 80s, 90s that has this really unique take on stuff. He's set to direct an animated Flash Gordon.
Really?
Yeah. So Fox owned the rights, and of course, obviously Disney gobbled up Fox, and now this is a Disney/Fox property. But we don't seem to know anything more than that. So I don't know. We had the Flash Gordon from the 80s, little kitschy, little tongue-in-cheek 60s Batman style. But I would love it if they went back to almost the old Alex Raymond style from the 30s and 40s, where it came from, the syndicated comic strip.
Okay.
Or even Al Williamson, who his art, you remember because he did a lot of Star Wars comic books for Marvel back in the 80s.
Okay.
Very hyper detailed. So I'm intrigued to see if they're going to try something. I would hope that they aren't just going to go down the road of CG animated debacles and make it look. I would like it if they stay true to the way that it looked back in the 30s. I think that would be kind of a neat approach, something different. Obviously, at this point, I think that, from Star Wars on up has mined a lot of that stuff. So when you do see it, that was the problem with John Carter, Warlord of Mars, is that so much of that source material has been mined for other things that when it finally did come out, it would just look like, it was copying all these other movies that in reality were copying from the book series. But we'll see. I don't know. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, and that might be some of the problem with making another version after the iconic 1980 movie of Flash Gordon, because a lot of people are going to hold whatever this is up to that. And in its own way, say what you will about the 1980 Flash Gordon, it is just a smorgasbord of pulpy goodness. So
it's funny you mentioned that, Jim, because we actually reviewed that movie.
We did, way back when.
What did we pair that up with?
I think we paired it with...
it was Incredibles.
It was with The Incredibles, okay.
Incredibles 2.
That was before we were co-headlining our classic features with the main feature. So this was early days.
Yeah. So if you want to, dip your toe in the pool and take a gander at what we thought of that movie, you can always go check it out.
Go back and check that
out. That's a shameless plug right there.
Yes.
Go check it out. The only other thing I have, which is not really news, but we're going to give a special shout out because we received an email from one of our listeners who correctly answered my mac and cheese question from a couple of weeks ago. We had thrown it out there. We were doing a live event. Come to our booth, give me the answer, and you would win a special prize. And nobody showed up. Nobody had the answer.
At least nobody showed up with the answer.
No. And we were telling other vendors, and they could have easily just gone back to the table, looked up the question, got the answer, and won the prize, and they didn't even do that. So So anyways, this gentleman, Robert Medford, we're giving you a shout out, man. We're giving you thanks because you not only took the time to get the correct answer, but to send it in to us. So if you want to re-email us with your mailing address, we will send you a thank you package from TMI.
And if anybody else would like to comment on our show or maybe give us a suggestion of what to cover, the email address again is tmipodcast2018@gmail.com, tmipodcast2018@gmail.com.
Gmail.com.
Yeah.
Do you see like maybe somewhere in the future we actually do like a whole listener request episode?
I could see that happening if the requests are
something that we were interested in.
Like, we get Debbie Does Dallas. We most likely will not cover that movie, but we'll take
watch
it into consideration.
I'll still watch it. I'll just email you my notes. I'm not going to go on record here. We try to keep this family friendly. Let's put it that way. Yeah. Although every time Adrienne Barbeau comes up, we're not responsible.
It pushes the envelope.
It pushes her bra too.
Yeah, she pushes a lot of other things.
Boom, baba, boom, baba. Boom, baba, boom, baba, boom.
So I've got a news item. I read something.
Alrighty.
Tom Hanks on the Graham Norton Show, which is an English talk show you can see on BBC America. He is talking about Toy Story 4, and Graham Norton and Tom Hanks are discussing it as if it is, in fact, the last Toy Story movie. Tom Hanks was saying how upset he was, and surprisingly so. It was the last day of his last recording of Toy Story 4. Once he wrapped up, and the guys in the engineering booth in the recording studio just said, that's it. Thank you, Mr. Hanks. That's all we need today. And he just stood there and said, what, you don't need another look out, Buzz, or anything like that for a toy or for a commercial? Nope, we got everything. Thank you. And he just kind of sat there stymied, walked out to his car, and broke down. So it's like 20 years of his life. He said, I started this thing in terms of recording back in 1991. It takes about 3 to 4 years working on every one of these movies, till the recording process is done.
Right, sure.
So, it's like a chapter of his life gone. But it sounds, according to this conversation, it sounds kind of final. That there's
a little finite, huh? To infinity and beyond. Nope, we're good.
Yeah,
we're good. Yeah, but they probably all said their goodbyes at the end of Toy Story 3.
You're most likely, yes. Yeah,
right? I mean, the guys at Pixar have gone on record that they saw no reason to do another one after 3. So they're like, do we need to break out the sporks again for the cake? No. We're going to sell those on eBay. And it's not like you can even take anything from the set as like a memento. There's nothing physical you can take. You can't take Woody's hat.
No. Well, he could go to Disney World or Disneyland and give a big hug to the character actor.
How great would it be if he just showed up in Disneyland dressed as Woody?
Oh, that would be awesome. He could do that. He could do that. That would be like that
Tom Holland dressing up as Spider-Man running around Comic-Con. And did you ever see there's a video where Arnold Schwarzenegger dressed up as the Terminator and was standing in the wax museum waiting for people to take pictures with him, and then he'd come to life?
No.
That would scare the living shit out of me. I'd slap him across the face. Arnold Schwarzenegger would kill me. I was just making a joke. So, all right, that's our news.
All right, so again, as we said, this week we are covering Good Omens.
Good Omens.
This has been a long time coming. This is based on a 1990 novel by Neil Gaiman. Not that old, by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett. They had always wanted to make this into some kind of a movie or a television show. And Terry Pratchett, unfortunately, they were both working on it, and he passed away.
Yeah, I have it in my notes, so maybe we can talk about it at the end, or that there were people attached to this as projects earlier on.
And I think in terms of directors and that type of thing?
In terms of, hold on one second, let me go to my notes, because you'll be blown away that Terry Gilliam was set to direct with Robin Williams and Johnny Depp.
Wow.
Right? A much different movie.
It would have been.
So I'm glad that this was like 2002 is supposedly when that was all shaping up. I think I'm happy. I'm happy it didn't happen.
Yeah, and the fact that it's actually a limited series rather than a movie. So imagine all.
I don't think you could do this in a movie.
In a 2-hour.
I really don't think you. And this is a perfect platform. It's too bad that these liberals want Netflix to cancel it.
Which Netflix has actually.
Yes, Netflix stepped up, did the right thing.
Yeah, you can't see this anymore on Netflix. You couldn't to begin with, actually.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody knows what we're speaking of, but I guess there was a Christian group out there who was boycotting this and demanded that Netflix take it down. Unaware of the fact that obviously this is not on Netflix, it's on Amazon Prime.
There's been an online boycott from this group. They've since corrected it. It no longer says Netflix. It now says Amazon.
Sorry, it doesn't matter. Damage is done.
Yeah.
If you can't do your homework, then there's no way your boycott's going forward.
So obviously, we'll get into this a little bit later after we talk about the show, but it just goes to show that obviously anybody that's boycotting this never actually watched it to begin with.
Yeah, well, that's most of them.
Yeah.
That's most of these groups that just, it's a knee-jerk reaction and they jump all over it not knowing. I mean, one of the more famous stories is Kevin Smith when he was making Dogma. Just the fact that they were dealing with angels and demons and these groups were out front protesting. And Kevin Smith walked right in and started protesting with them, asking them questions. They didn't know anything about the movie. They sure as hell didn't know who he was. And yet here they were protesting it. So it's whatever. I got better things to do with my day. So yes, and this was actually a BBC produced.
Yes, it was co-production, BBC and Amazon.
Yeah.
And Neil Gaiman was not going to go forward with this because of the death of his writing partner in this particular instance. But he found a letter from Terry Pratchett urging him to carry on, to make this into a live action, either show or movie. And I think Pratchett actually said the only way I would allow you to do this is if you wrote the screenplay. Which he did. And he is actually the showrunner as well as Neil Gaiman.
Yeah, and from what I understand, this is pretty damn true to the novel,
so
which makes me want to go and read the book now.
Yeah, it does. It's very clever. It makes you feel more clever watching it than you probably are going into this.
This is the most fun I've had watching a TV show or a movie in a very long time. Now, I watched the first 4 episodes before we even agreed to cover this, and then went back and rewatched them and enjoyed them just as much the first time.
And so what's causing all the hubbub? This is a story about an angel and a demon who kind of have a friendship from the beginning of time, spanning through the centuries. And the story picks up in modern day times, and they're on the cusp of Armageddon. The Antichrist has been introduced into the world, and the countdown is ticking now towards the end of the world and the big war between heaven and hell. And that's the setup of the movie. And we've got Crawley. I always want to say Crowley when I see his name written down, but no, it's pronounced Crawley, as in he is the snake in the Garden of Eden crawling around,
right,
tempting Adam and Eve. So we have Crowley, played by David Tennant, and he is the demon half of this pairing. And then we have Aziraphale, who is the angel, played by Michael Sheen. Both brilliantly played by these two actors.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. These two are so mesmerizing together on screen, and it's funny because you get these teens that want to ship these two characters, and you don't even have to. You don't even have to pretend that they have a straight up relationship, and it becomes more obviously as the episodes go on.
They do, and you see a little bit of a flashback as the show goes on as to how their relationship has changed over the course of the centuries. And they're really in denial that there is a relationship at all because
right.
One of them is the opposite member. So they're not supposed to fraternize.
It's like, you can't have good without evil or vice versa. And so they're always there at these pivotal events in human history. But
always running into each other. They're always at the same events.
So well done. I mean, like you said, the opening minutes, you kind of get this. And you got Frances McDormand who does the voiceover of God. And it's just so well done. The dialogue is so clever and lyrical in this throughout. It is so fun to watch. And like you said, it actually elevates your IQ. You make you're smarter than you are because it just rolls. It just rolls. And it's like, I don't want to call it a song, but it's just, like I said, it's very lyrical. And it's just so emotionally satisfying watching these characters go through this storyline.
Now, they are definitely the anchor of what's going on here, but there's a lot of interesting stuff going on around them as well. In a turn of events towards the beginning of the movie, how the Antichrist arrives on Earth. This is a turn of events that's worthy of a Three's Company plot line.
There you go.
There's an old switcheroo done because here's the setup is that this angel and this demon, they've grown accustomed to human life. And they really don't want to see Armageddon happen. They don't want to see the end of humanity because they like it here. this is their commonality. This is what kind of ties them together. Crawley is tasked with bringing the Antichrist up in a wicker basket to drop him off at an evil nun's birthing hospital.
The Chattering Order of Satanic Nuns.
He's very ambivalent. He's very ambivalent, to say the least. He's got to deliver this baby, and the plan is that the baby was to be born or to be given to a couple that was the father is an American diplomat. Who's
Nick Offerman completely wasted it.
I know. You would think. I was thinking he was going to come back. He was going to come back in a larger part towards the end. It doesn't happen.
No. He's such a throwaway character.
So kind of you get these shades of where the Damien series went with that Final Countdown movie and Sam Neill, where he was a politician when he became an adult. So the Antichrist is to be given to this American diplomat. So you kind of think, okay, so he's gonna become president or something. But no, there's a switcheroo. So just some regular English couple who happens to be at the same hospital at the same time ends up with the baby, and their baby goes with the diplomat. So all the angels and demons think that the actual Antichrist is with the senator. But that's not the case. He's with this family, kind of in hiding because nobody knows where he is, until we have this character of Anathema Device who comes in.
She is so... I probably have it in my notes 5 times that she's adorable.
Now, she is the niece of a Salem-era witch by the name of Agnes Nutter.
Agnes Nutter. There's a lot going on in this, by the way.
There's a lot going on.
Because this, I will tell you, this time jumps. And that they even like the little graphics, so they set it up and you're like, oh, it's 11 years until the apocalypse. It's 2 hours before the end of times. So these little title cards that come up or whatever is really fun and kind of keeps you on your toes because it does jump through time, especially when you get into episode 3 there where you see the evolution of Crawley and Aziraphale's relationship going back to Noah's Ark all the way up through.
Right, to the crucifixion, to medieval times, to Shakespeare.
To current times. Yeah. Which are all very funny. There's so many like little tongue-in-cheek throwaway lines.
Still a demon, then? What kind of stupid question's that? Still a demon? What else am I going to be, an aardvark?
Like I said, it's like rat-a-tat. It just comes at you. Like there's a scene in Noah's Ark, and I don't want to deviate too much, but Crawley goes, the unicorn's making a run for it. It's just a stupid throwaway thing.
So we have Agnes Nutter, who's the Salem-era witch, and she's written a book called The Nice and Accurate Prophecies of Agnes Nutter. And this book kind of drives the later episodes because all of her prophecies is what happened in this series, actually. And her niece, Anathema, who in modern times is trying to also avert the apocalypse. She's using this as a guide.
Anathema's entire family for like 300 plus years have used this as like a driving force to decipher all of these little prophecies and to guide them to where they need to be at the end.
Yeah, and it goes into the minutest of details, like telling her and Anathema what to do every day in order to make this prophecy come to fruition. So when she loses the book, when she leaves it in Crawley's car, so that kind of also sets things reeling in terms of the plot because now she's not really understanding of what she.
Yeah, but she also has like an entire chest full of the index cards. So she's written everything out over the years. So
kind of like recipes. Yeah, so she doesn't really need the book. You're right.
Why does she still need?
Desperate to get it back, but but she's got all these things written down anyway. So then we have another one of my favorite characters is played by Michael McKean, Sergeant Shadwell. A wonderful Irish accent done by Michael McKean.
He's always so much fun.
And he is a witch hunter. Witch finder or witch hunter?
Witch finder. Witch finder
Sergeant Shadwell.
Because there's a lot of disconnected pieces up front. And you're just like, how is this all working together? And you see by the end that they all kind of tie in. And the credits are genius.
The credits are
absolutely genius. They're so old school Python-esque in the animation style. But if you watch that opening credits, it tells you everything that's going to happen in this 6 episodes.
Yeah, when you watch the first episode, it's the same opening credit that you see at the end. But as Jeff said, it kind of reveals everything that's to come. So in the first episode, you're thinking these are just random images, but that's not the case.
No, it really does take you through it spells out the entire show.
And so part of this, the biggest driver of the plot is the Antichrist himself. And the kid's name is Adam. In the story. And this kid is so creepy. as him. He's 11 years old at the time of the story, and he hangs around with his 3 friends, and they go on, they're walking around in the woods because that's where they live, in the rural area of England. And the Netherworld sends out the Hellhound to begin the apocalypse. As soon as the Hellhound meets the boy and he is named, that's when he comes into his power.
That's the catalyst, yeah.
So this,
and they have it right down to the minute. They know exactly the minute that the boy gets the dog or the Hellhound.
Right. And while they think that the Hellhound is going to this kid that's part of the diplomat's family, the Hellhound knows where he's going. He actually goes to the correct kid. And this Hellhound is the most frightening beast that you can imagine. This giant, evil, snarling dog, red eyes.
The teeth on that are just monstrous.
The joke is that he only looks that way for about 5 minutes, because as soon as he finds the boy, he turns into a little yippy terrier.
Right.
And becomes the boy's pet. Very imaginatively, Adam names him Dog.
Dog.
And thus comes into his power as the Antichrist.
Yep.
And immediately begins to freak out his friends because he starts to have glowing red eyes and he starts floating.
Yeah, and he's you're right. He's kind of now forcing their will to do things, and they call themselves them. He made mention of this once or twice, and I guess it's true to the book, which is this group of friends, these 3 friends, and himself and the dog. They are collectively referred to as them. So a couple of times when they said, "Well, we can't. That can't happen," he goes, "Oh, that's no problem for them." So he's referring to themselves.
The group of himself and the group
of kids, yeah, actually had this name.
And the great thing when you think about it is that Anathema actually sets him on his path to come into his power.
Yeah,
because,
right. They're all tied together.
Because she knows she needs to be in this cabin adjacent to where Adam is, not really knowing that he is who he is, but because of the prophecies, that's where she rents a cabin and she's looking for the Antichrist.
And she's still trying to decipher some of these prophecies.
And she runs into Adam and his friends in the forest one day and befriends them and kind of sets him on the path of the way that she is. She reads all these conspiracy theory magazines about, Atlantis existed, there's UFOs, and there's a cover-up, and all these different out there theories, and she gives him a bunch of magazines to read, and he wills these things into existence.
Which is great, right? Yeah. So he's not really bad. He just read too many conspiracy theory magazines. Yeah. And he's like, so even his friends are like, that's not real, right? And he goes, no, they're in magazines. They're not on computers. It's on magazines. It has to be real. So all of a sudden you start seeing alien spaceships coming down because he read an article or the Kraken.
The Kraken,
a news report with the Kraken, and the parents are watching the TV, and he just kind of turns and he looks at the magazine. It's the exact same creature on the cover of the magazine that's now on his television. Yeah,
and the great thing is that the Kraken is actually destroying whaling ships, which is another article from one of those magazines, because we're losing the whales, and that's a...
Right, yeah, and the kids at one point, they're like, we should save the whales. They need to be saved. All right, we'll save the whales, he said. Mm-hmm. So all of this stuff is like gestating in his brain and somehow manifesting itself.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you only see the Kraken in that one scene. Although
I know, their budget was probably spent on all these elaborate costumes when they went through time.
So then Adam becomes like the typical Damien, evil speak kind of possessed character. Once he starts to make all these things happen and he realizes that he can do these things, he becomes a bit of a jerk.
His friends realize pretty quickly, we don't like you and we don't want to play these games anymore.
Yeah, so they try to
even
leave.
Even the dog is kind of like...
Even the Hellhound, yeah.
Dude, I don't know what you're doing.
The friends tries to leave Adam's side and he won't let them go. They're stuck in position there. And then as they're trying to talk him out of doing all these things, he erases their mouths so they can't talk to him anymore.
Stop talking.
So at that point, he gets really scary. As the show goes on, he makes an about face. So this is where I think the show really comes into its power for me, is that it shows, I think the main message here that you take away from it is that nobody is above redemption. The Antichrist is redeemed by the end of the show, and as is Crowley. What's happening is that Adam does not want to accept his given role as the Antichrist. He eventually sees that this is not the way things should be going, and that he rebels against what he is created for. Really, what his purpose on earth is to usher in the war between heaven and hell. And John Hamm, as Gabriel, kind of like on the front line of heaven, trying to make this happen. And he's not hearing Aziraphale saying, well, it doesn't have to happen this way. And John Hamm's like, it does.
Well, but how are we going to win? How are we going to win? And I think that's the crux of what these Christian naysayers are fighting against, which is like they're saying that God is open for, we just want a war so we can win and be the good guys.
But it's funny because when you think about it, it's not God that's saying this. It's Gabriel.
You never actually get to the God level. It's all like the corporate minions underneath him.
Whenever you hear Frances McDormand, she's always very, even keeled. Her narration is just, this is what's happening, and as if it's meant to happen, which is what is kind of put out there at the end of the maybe this is what was meant to happen, not the war at all. So, and a lot of the things I was reading about that boycott as well, the one thing that stuck out to me that it said it shows the devil as a good guy. And so I'm watching this through. I'm like, okay, I'm not seeing the devil as a good guy. I'm not seeing the devil as a good guy. And then when he finally appears in the last episode, he's not a good guy.
No, not at all.
So, but it's Crawley that they're referring to, who's not the devil at all.
He's a fall. Well, that's the thing, which you forget that a demon is just a fallen angel.
Yeah.
Right. And one of my favorite lines, and he the back and forth between these two characters, and like I said, the relationship. And at one point, Aziraphale actually says, well, you're a fallen angel. And he goes, I didn't fall. I just kind of sauntered vaguely downwards. It's just kind of like I hung out with the wrong people is what he's implying.
Yeah.
That, I didn't consciously make a decision to be bad. And he's not bad. He's rock star, man. He's got rock star swagger. And the one thing I love is every time you see this character, he has a different look and a different hairstyle.
But always he's got those same painful-looking contact lenses.
They've got to be. Well, that's why they put him in sunglasses 3/4 of the time, just so he didn't have to wear those contacts.
Ugh.
Because they look painful. They really do. And the one thing we didn't really get into is the Queen soundtrack.
I know they must have had a deal with Queen,
because everywhere. Well, they get special credit up front, but every time Crawley, and I guess this is really true to the books, which is they make mention that eventually every cassette in Crawley's car turns into the greatest hits of Queen. Because that's what it is. It's the greatest hits. And it's just, he's rock star swagger is all I can say. So likable.
And
he's like, would I lie to you? He goes, you're a demon. That's what you do.
Yeah. But he's redeemed.
But they really had each
he's redeemed
back.
at the end. That's the thing. I think these Christian groups should actually be on board with this, because all the tenets of the faith are there. The redemption is possible, no matter who.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. And the whole buildup of the Four Horsemen. So you have this postal work. I guess it was International Express Company, but he was a postal worker. He had a little postal truck, and he was delivering these packages to the Four Horsemen that were supposed to converge alongside the Antichrist. And of course, they went to their own kid. They didn't know where they were going. Yep. Mm-hmm. But they were so well realized as well. We had war, pollution, pestilence, and death. And I love the fact that it was the flaming sword that Aziraphale gave to Adam and Eve and then lost track of immediately. And that's a running joke throughout the whole thing. Yeah. Oh, according to our paperwork, you had a flaming sword. You didn't lose that. What? It's not like I gave it away.
What if I did the right thing with the whole eat the apple business? Demon can get into a lot of trouble for doing the right thing. It'd be funny if we both got it wrong, eh? If I did the good thing and you did the bad one.
No. Wouldn't be funny at all.
There's so many just little moments in this.
And let's talk about the demons that work with Crawley. I love the character of Hastur, who is like an actual bad demon.
You smell like poo. When he finally meets Warlock and he thinks he's the Antichrist. He goes, what are the voices in your head saying? He goes, they're telling me you smell like poo.
Crowley is kind of above this because he's, as we said, looks like a rock star, and he's got the burning lizard eyes, but that's about it. But all these other demons have lizards on their head, and they've got slime on their head. Hastur has these black eyes.
There's a scene with Hastur with the maggots that I could have done without. Duke of Hell. Hastur was the Duke of Hell.
So whenever Crawley is doing something good, Hastur is there kind of raising his eyebrows, questioning him and his intent. But there's one hilarious scene where Hastur gets caught in Crawley's answering machine. Don't ask me how. But
yeah, no, it was clever. It was pretty well done.
But it's funny because, just as an aside, the black eyes of Hastur made me think I used to work at an office supply store. and I'd be there at 6 a.m. because we opened early. And there was always this one gentleman who would come in before work to buy like paper or whatever. I don't know where he worked, but he had the blackest eyes. And it reminded me of him when I was watching this show, whenever I saw Haster, because the guy had huge pupils. Yeah, just had huge pupils, and they just seemed black, and they just covered, and he just creeped me out because there was no one ever in the store when he was there. It was like only I knew of his existence.
Were you the only one who saw him?
And he
Did
always
you see that guy? I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, yeah, there was nobody even there for me to tell that because I was the only one working.
He didn't show up on video cameras.
But this is the thing. This is the thing. Whenever he would pay, he would leave his wallet open so I could see a photo in there of some young woman in lingerie. Now, whether this was a clipping from a magazine or somebody that he actually knew.
It's my mom.
No. Maybe this was his favorite prostitute. I do not know. But he obviously wanted
Jezebel.
He obviously wanted me to see it so he could, show off. So at one point, when he finally did it, when 2 or 3 times in, and the wallet came out again, and he was there, I couldn't resist, and I said, "You have a lovely daughter." As he just kind of and then walked out and picked up the wallet. Now
that was a picture of him in drag, by the way.
Maybe it was. I don't know. He
was hitting on you.
So, yeah, I really enjoyed this. Again, made me feel smarter than I am watching it. And I was very sad to know that I knew this going in, but that it's a limited series, that it's not coming back for a season 2. It's the book, and that's it.
I'm glad it is, though, because it's one set. You don't need to revisit these characters.
No, you don't.
No.
Although Gaiman, I think Gaiman and Pratchett were working on a sequel at the time that Pratchett died. So that may come to fruition in terms of a novel, but who knows if we'll ever see that on screen.
Okay. I think at this point that Kids on Bikes Saving the World is like its own subgenre.
It is. It really is.
Because we went full on Stranger Things here toward the end. And the one that I have a couple I thought the last 2 episodes were a little weak compared to the first 4 because the buildup is so great. Because as they go, they realize that they really care about each other. And there's a true relationship here. And I don't care that it's 2 guys or it's a demon and an angel. They genuinely have emotion and feelings for each other. And it comes across. I mean, it's so well perceived and executed, and you want these characters to thrive and to fulfill their mission, I guess.
And as I said before, they're kind of in denial of the friendship that's there because of who they are. But at the end, it's out in the open where they're always threatening we should have lunch one day, but they never do it. So the final scene is them having lunch.
Yeah, no, it's enjoyable. Absolutely enjoyable. I can't say enough good things about this.
Yeah, and as Jeff was saying before, for me as well, it's probably one of the best shows I've seen in recent memory.
Definitely check it out.
Yeah, so in terms of buckets, I'm thinking I would go 4, solid 4 on this one.
I actually went 4 1/4, and I said I probably would have gone a little bit higher if those last 2 episodes didn't. And again, I watched the first 4 episodes twice.
Okay.
So if I went back and rewatched the last 2 episodes, now knowing where it's going, would I enjoy it a little bit more? The soundtrack is phenomenal. The really cool thing, which is, most of these Netflix and Amazon, Netflix does it, which is it allows you to skip the end credits. And this one doesn't. I watched that opening animation we spoke about before. I never skipped it. You can skip it. But like you said, sometimes it comes in at like 30 minutes into the episode. But it's fun to watch. The soundtrack is just this. I don't want to say it's Danny Elfman-esque, but it's like an earworm because once you get it in your head, but each episode ends with a variation on that theme, whether it's like a heavy metal version or there was one that was almost like a calliope circus pipe. They had one that was sounded like the Beach Boys did a cover version of it. So it was fun. They played fast and loose with the music. We mentioned Queen. So the soundtrack was very well done. It was fun.
So again, you should know by now, if you listen to this show, that Podcoin is a new app where you can earn points, not only for yourself towards Amazon gift cards or Starbucks gift cards or various gift cards.
They keep adding on. I mean, every time I go on there's different stuff. They're really tiering it up, so you're allowed to get some good stuff now.
Yeah. So the more that you listen, the more points you earn. I think you get 1 point for every 10 minutes. Is that how it works?
It's some kind of a ratio. It's like I think it's like a 1 for every 10 minutes.
And if you so choose, you can also donate your points to charity. And we like to talk up a charity called Books for Poor Kids because we love to read and we love to use our local libraries.
We could not do this classic feature without our local libraries.
We could not. So we thought this would be a very good one for us to talk up, Books for Poor Kids.
Yeah.
So in order for you to really get the most out of your Podcoin app, obviously first sign up for it. Look for it on the App Store under Podcoin. And when you sign up, you can use our special code, which is TMI NerdKind. That's TMI NerdKind, all one word, and you'll get 300 Podcoin just to sign up.
And that's a lot. I'm going to tell you, I've been listening for a while now, and I just broke the 300 point mark. So
yeah, so take advantage. Take advantage.
Yeah.
And then, of course, once you're on there, you can subscribe to us, so then you can earn points every week by listening to our new episodes, which come out every Wednesday.
That's right.
So there you go. Speaking of our classic feature, we are looking at Ridley Scott's Legend this week. And I would like to share with you the original teaser trailer from 1985, followed by a concession stand ad for Flip's Chips. Now, I don't know if these were actual potato chips because at one point in here they say a chip-like snack. So
a chip-like snack. Nice.
So we're going to go to the concession stand, watch a trailer, and we'll be right back.
There is a balance to the universe. The struggle to maintain that balance is the stuff of legends. For there can be no good without evil, no love without hate. Life needs death. Innocence breeds lust. There can be no heaven without hell, no light without me. I am darkness. Flips, the new snack sensation. Flips, the crispy, crunchy chip with a zesty, tantalizing flavor all its own, and an airy lightness that's so satisfying, but not filling. We make them fresh right here, so you can treat yourself to a cup or a bagful of America's newest chip-type snack while you're watching the show. Flips, deliciously different.
Okay, here we are. And Jeff, this has been a long time coming.
Yeah, we've talked about this has been up on our list for quite some time.
Yeah, and I loved this movie from when I first saw it in early 1986 in the theater.
Yeah.
It's one of these movies, and it's rare that you come across these that really puts you in its own world. It's like you can just tune completely out of reality when you're watching this, and you are enveloped in this world that Ridley Scott has created.
Well, that's something I put in my notes, which is Ridley Scott his world building is like no other. I mean, he was coming off Blade Runner,
Alien, and Blade Runner.
Alien.
So this was his fourth feature, The Duelists, I believe.
Yes,
was
fourth,
his first. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. It is unlike anything he's done before or since. And they have this kind of like a 45-minute behind the scenes, really in-depth discussions with him and the writer. Screenwriter was Hortzberg. Just like he threw out, I want like an old school fairy tale with unicorns, and I want the main character to be on a quest. I think they latched on pretty quickly that it's more Grimm's fairy tale, because it really is kind of like gritty and dark at points.
Completely, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, and I saw that same bonus feature, and it just struck me how everybody involved in the movie was just over the moon about this original script, this original screenplay.
Yeah.
That they thought it was epic, that they thought it was amazing. And of course, as Hollywood is, I guess it was so epic that they didn't have the budget to even nearly get to that original screenplay. So I would love to read that, to see just what that was and how it differs from the final project.
Special effects guys, Rob Botton, who did all the, he'd worked with Carpenter and Verhoeven.
Yeah, he was just coming off The Thing before he did.
And he read the script and he was like, I immediately started going back and highlighting. He goes, and I realized that, once we get to the army of dwarves, we were talking like millions of dollars and just special effects. So, unfortunately, budgets rule the day, and you have to kind of cut back this stuff.
Yeah,
but
so
he's responsible for our darkness.
Oh, completely, yes. And he earned an Oscar for best makeup on this.
Yeah, that it is untouched. That character was so well realized.
So this has a long and thorny history. Does Legend? So as Jeff said, Ridley Scott really had it in him to make a fairy tale, a fairy story, as he calls it. So coming off of Blade Runner, I would love to think that these are in the same reality as Alien and Blade Runner are often said to be. And maybe this is as well, but, centuries passed. I doubt it.
Well, I do feel that by the end that Jack really channeled his inner Ripley in order to get rid of it.
Completely.
He blew it right out the airlock.
Yes, he did. So this filmed in 1984, early 1984 is when they started filming on this thing. And it didn't come out until over a year later in the UK. And then even later in the US. There's many different versions of this film that's out there. So,
which is also, this is like a Ridley Scott staple. He can't just have one version of his movie. There's 4 versions of this out there floating around. Blade Runner has 12. I may be overemphasizing that.
Yeah, Blade Runner does have quite a bit, yes. Yeah. I don't know about 12, but it does have.
No, but it's like, dude, which one do you want me to watch? And even when we decided what we're going to watch, we're like, all right, well, which one? I think you and I both saw the U.S. theatrical release, which was the Tangerine Dream soundtrack.
Because that's the one that we grew up with. That's the one we know.
Right. After watching that special, they all were because what you realize is that Tangerine Dream being thrown in here at the end was a knee-jerk reaction, not only by the studio, but more so from Ridley, that they needed to somehow, it was getting kind of bad audience reactions, and so they jumped on this. I would have loved to have the time to go back and actually watched the European version, which is longer and has the original Jerry Goldsmith score, because everybody in that special just raves about this, that it's just a classic score and it was near perfect, and they all lament the fact that they kind of caved to pressure and made these changes.
Yeah, and Jerry Goldsmith also did the Alien score. And from what I've heard, a lot of the trailers online and a lot of the scenes from that special have some snatches of that original score. And there's a lot of Alien-type motifs that you can hear in that score. So it kind of is a carry-through from the earlier Ridley Scott movie. And I didn't watch it for this podcast, but I've seen that extended cut with the Jerry Goldsmith score before.
Okay.
And it's a great score. And it does fit the movie, but if you only know from seeing it in the theater with the Tangerine Dream score, you can't get that out of your head. It is so
and I think that and that Tangerine, because it's so unique and it's so different, it lends itself, because you are otherworldly, and that music just takes it to that other dimension, that separate level of, you're now watching something unlike anything you've seen before. And I wish I'd seen this on Blu-ray. I have the DVD.
Yeah, I actually bought the Blu-ray. I have the DVD as well, but I thought, no, this is as good a chance as I will have to justify buying this Blu-ray. If I can own any Blu-ray rather than a DVD, it would be Legend. And it was perfect. And there's actually, when I queued up the US version with a Tangerine Dream score, there's a note on screen that appears from Ridley Scott saying that while I do prefer the
why are you listening to this version, you jerk?
While my preferred version is the full-length theatrical version, which you can also find on this disc, I must admit that the transfer of the theatrical cut is actually better than the transfer of the theatrical European version, because Universal had access to the original negative or something, so it actually looked better. So he says,
well, I mean, the lighting, I mentioned this last week, which is, I saw this in the theater back to back with Highlander. As an art student, these two movies showed me that a film it's not just a film. Like you watch movies, and I have friends who, don't understand it when I say it was beautiful, or I refer to a movie as anything other than, it was good. And this to me is art. And it's amazing that he was able to get his vision, the lighting, the character designs, the costumes, the set design.
That's
completely, it's an indoor set that they built
a complete
on the soundstage
indoors.
007. Yeah, I mean, just insane.
Now, if you ever seen The Spy Who Loved Me, that's why they built this soundstage. It was like the inside of a ship in that 007 movie that housed 2 full-length submarines. So they needed to build a set that would encapsulate 2 full-length submarines indoors, and that's what they built the soundstage for, and that's what they used for Legend, is to create this forest.
Huh.
And what's funny is that they were saying how wildlife lived in this soundstage.
Well, they put like thousands of animals in there.
Yeah.
And so here's the thing, which they didn't talk about, which is the fact that there was a fire that destroyed it. They never once mentioned how many animals they lost.
Well, they did say that it was lunch break, right? And
yeah, but the animals don't go on lunch.
But no, the guy said the security guard, the security guard knew something was going on because all the pigeons flew out, and so he got up and looked to see what was happening inside. And that's when he saw the ceiling was aflame.
And it's a good thing that it was on a lunch break, too, because you probably had technicians and lighting guys up in those rafters. And that
gaffers, best boys, whatever they
Yeah, gaffers. It would have been catastrophic.
So maybe we should set the scene here.
We're already getting into the...
the actual plot of Legend centers...
there's a plot?
There's a plot, yeah. It's really much more fleshed out in the European version. You can tell, even if you've never seen or have knowledge that there's a longer version, you can tell that this has been really edited down when you watch the U.S. theatrical.
It is pretty simplistic, the U.S. version.
Because there's a lot of scenes that you think are missing here, and we'll get into some of that. But the plot really centers around Jack, who's kind of a forest boy, like a Peter Pan forest boy kind of character. Does he have parents? We don't know. Has he grown up in the forest?
I want to know how many movies Tom Cruise is where he's played a character named Jack. We should make that a game.
Yeah, we should make that a game.
I'm going to say at least 4.
And he's got perfect teeth for somebody that's never seen a sink in his life.
And he's got pretty hair too. Not a single mold or leaf.
I wonder where you get that pert shampoo in the forest.
It's a rabbit poo.
So we've got Jack and his paramour, Lily, who apparently is a princess.
Yeah, she makes a mention of the fact that she...
like, King's order could not keep me out of the forest today, she says.
Yep. Yeah, something, yeah.
She visits Nell.
Why am I going to get locked up in the
because she makes a visit in the very beginning of this movie. It all takes place in the forest. And Lily is skipping tra-la-la through the forest, and she visits a family in there that she apparently visits all the time, run by the housefrau by the name of Nell.
Yeah, because she just walks in and starts eating her food.
Yep. And then Nell says, "Oh, Lily, I think of you as a daughter. Don't go in the forest today." And then that's when she says, "King's decree could not keep me from the forest today," because she's going to meet Jack.
Yes.
But she's a little devious because Nell asks her if she has a paramour, and she says, "No, I'm not going to see a paramour," but she is. We know that that's a lie.
Her and Jack are going to do the nasty in the woods.
So then she meets Jack, who is played quite ably by Tom Cruise.
Is he played ably? That's about all you can say.
I think because you need him to be innocent, and he does speak probably in a couple of higher octaves than his normal speaking voices, just to sound like childlike, I think.
Well, what's funny? I mean, we can get into this a little bit at the end, which is, so this comes right after he made Risky Business, but before Top Gun.
And he also had made All the Right Moves as well.
All the Right Moves. Oh, you're right. Yeah. But the thing is that, this is not the Tom Cruise that we know who commands the screen.
No, it is not.
He really gets lost.
He is part of the background, part of the ensemble.
He's got no stage presence, is maybe what I'm getting at. Because you get carried away looking at his fine teeth. But his performance, and maybe that was on purpose, but he really gets lost in the eye candy of everything else that's going on around him.
Which I think is a good thing, because if it was Tom Cruise, showing up.
But I think he wasn't, quote unquote, Tom Cruise
at the time.
At the time. He was an actor filling a role, and he's gone on record that this was probably one of the worst experiences he's ever had, and he would never make another movie like this. And if you watch those specials, they talk about the fact that Ridley Scott loves nothing more than 14-hour setups for
Yeah.
a shot.
And the interesting thing is that the bonus feature here, the Making of Legend,
you're gonna
not
say
only
the
does
same
not have Tom Cruise involved,
never once mentions his
he
name.
is never mentioned at
Never
all.
mentions it. And even if they have behind the scenes stuff, it's a stunt double. So that's a very conscious decision to not bring up and talk about your main star.
They do have Mia Sara there who plays Lily. She never mentions him at all either.
No, Tim Curry, same thing. None of the writers, none of the directors, which is weird because then he turns around and works with Ridley Scott's brother, Tony, in Top Gun.
A year later, yeah, Top Gun.
Yeah. So yeah, whatever happened, Tom Cruise was not. He was.
But I would love to hear that story. I would love it if maybe they did come out with a 25th anniversary, 30, whatever it is.
Yeah, right. So it's too bad.
So Jack and Lily,
Jack and Lily
have this relationship. They see each other on the sly. Lily comes to visit him in the forest, and they make out. That's pretty much what they do.
And the creepy voyeuristic goblins are watching.
Yeah.
Oh, because we do meet in this version. You meet Darkness right early.
Yeah, I want to bring this up because it seems to me that this was kind of an add-on scene. Later on, there's a big reveal where
huge, so iconic.
Where he finally, like when Lily is in the underworld and he comes out of the mirror and in all of his glory for the first time, but seen him already in the very beginning of the movie. And it seems like it is wasted.
I mean, he's in the shadows, but you get enough of him. You can see, it's not like all you see is his glowing eyes. You can make out his features or whatever. And he has,
so I really think, even though they don't mention it in the bonus feature, I think those scenes must have been tagged on by Ridley Scott when he was worried about not holding the audience. Because even the scenes when he's talking to Blix, his head goblin, the scene is shot from behind his chair. So it's like you were not meant to see him.
Yeah, and you see his finger, maybe you see a little, And Blix has all the best lines in this.
Yes, he does.
Absolutely.
Ah, Blix, I am not the most loathsome of my goblins.
Truly, master.
And is your heart black and full of hate?
Black as midnight, black as pitch, blacker than the foulest witch.
That is why I have called you here.
Let's talk about this character now. He's really, and this is purposeful. And I always thought this myself.
I know where you're going with this. They
channeled this character off of Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones,
which is crazy.
A very evil-looking character in his own right, and they just made him a caricature and turned him into his
Alice
goblin.
Clayton was the actress, and she relays a story where she's in the makeup chair, and Tim Curry comes in, and he's getting ready to do his 5 hours plus of makeup. And they're chatting away or whatever. And he keeps looking at her and he goes, "You're just familiar." And so finally she goes, "Keith Richards?" And he's like, "You're right." And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Yeah, that's great.
I wonder if there's any shots. I would love to see Alice in full makeup throwing a TV out her hotel window.
That would be great if he showed up in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies just with this face makeup on.
Or it would have been fabulous if they actually cast Keith Richards as this goblin, as Blix.
Right.
Of course, he would have been unintelligible whenever he would say a line, I'm sure, but...
Well,
So we've got Jack and Lily, and Jack is unsatisfied with where the relationship is headed. I guess
because he's living outside and she's got a house.
I know. I think maybe he wants to take it up a step further from making out, and to do this, he's got to bring his A game. So he's going to show her the most magical creatures that he knows of in the forest, which is the unicorn. Maybe he can get lucky if he does this. I think maybe
that's basically what it comes down to, though. Yeah, you're like, I've been promising you this for a while.
Something really special that I've been promising to show you. Always go now, because I'll be here for a short while.
So he does, and they secretly go and they do see the unicorns, which are beautiful, beautiful horses that they somehow harnessed these horns.
they screw on, by the way.
Yeah, there's the bonus scene where I don't know how they got the screw in the horses.
So there's like some kind of a plate that goes over there. And listen, the horses are running. They're jumping at each other. It's like, at what point are you afraid that they're going to like impale each other?
Yeah,
with these things. But so well realized as I mean, just straight up unicorns that you and I know They to the point where I guess in the script, wherever they walked, life would grow, flowers would come up, and I guess they said that there's just no way they can make that happen in this with the special effects budget. But I think I want to say it was Princess Mononoke or one of these other anime movies where that does happen, where when the creature steps, like all this new life kind of grows up behind it. So that's something that we kind of, and they sound like humpback whales.
They do, and couple that with the Tangerine Dream score, it's just beautiful. The whole scene.
It's ethereal. And this whole, everything in this forest is so atmospheric. You've constantly got these flowers and the pollens and the petals floating throughout the scene that just adds such a magical touch to this. And the lighting is unbelievable.
To know that this is all an indoor set is just incredible, especially the scene in the stream with the unicorns.
Yeah, the full yeah.
So Lily can't help herself. Jack forbids her to approach the unicorns. He just wants to watch them. But Lily can't help herself. She approaches and she reaches out and touches the unicorn. And Jack knows that this is forbidden. But unbeknownst to them both, the goblins are watching them and uses this as an opportunity because the unicorns are now distracted by Lily. Blix takes a blow dart, dips it into the mouth of a toad, whatever this poison is.
That's right, yeah.
And shoots the stallion with it.
'Twas beauty that killed the beast.
Yes. And so this sets off another Armageddon, just like we saw in Good Omens.
There you go. Yeah.
So it sets off like an almost immediate winter because, well, not quite immediate, because Lily and Jack go off and he's admonishing her for touching the unicorn. You shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have done that.
Well, you shouldn't have showed it to me.
Basically, yes, you're right.
Right.
So to try to make him happy again, she tries to distract him by taking off her ring and saying, whoever finds this ring, I'm going to marry. And she throws it into the water. And of course, he dives right in after it. And that's when the winter starts. The Armageddon winter starts because Stallion has been killed, actually, and the horn.
They chopped the horn off. Yeah.
Another great scene is Jack trying to find the ring at the bottom of this little lagoon, and then he doesn't get it, but he swims back up to the surface, and the surface is frozen over. So he's trying to bust himself, and he does bust his way through the ice, and he sees like a winter has taken over this magical forest that has just been normal from when he went into the water.
Right, yeah. How long have I been down there?
So another great scene. So now we have, we come into Gump, who is a woodland elf.
He's Gump. And she's like, Jack, have you seen anything weird today? No, don't know what you're talking about. Nope. Nothing happened? Nope.
Well, we did touch the unicorn.
Oh, I did kind of. A mortal hand touched the unicorn? Upset the universe and not pay the price? Hey, let's have a drink.
Yeah.
Yes, the world's coming to an end. And then they immediately start toasting him.
Because he says, I did it for love. Oh, that's a different story.
Oh, there you go. Okay, yeah. Yeah. Oh, that makes all the difference. Come on, there you go.
Yep. And then he's got the thimbles on each of his fingers for so everybody could have a drink. That must be strong alcohol if you want to drink it from a thimble.
Yeah.
So, but we have Gump and we have Brown Tom. Don't ask why his name is Brown Tom. He's got a little incontinence problem, apparently.
Well, I think that Tom was actually referred to as Green Tom or Green Jack in the script, and they decided to just.
Yes.
So at one point, I think Ridley Scott actually wanted to paint him green.
And then we have Screwball, played by Billy Barty.
It's very magic.
Billy Barty. He was a staple in all of our childhoods.
So now we have the big setup. So now we have the hero on his quest to not only rescue the fair maiden, but to get back the unicorn horn and to make everything the way that it was before he screwed it up. So they find weapons. They give Jack his weapons, and then they go to storm Darkness's lair. But not before they run into Meg Mucklebones, one of the most impressive makeups that I've ever seen.
And the character lasts for about a minute.
Yeah. Now, this is a much longer scene from what I understand, from what I remember in the director's.
Well, that makes sense.
Yes.
And that's Robert Picardo, who went on to be the Doctor in Star Trek Voyager.
Yes. Now, this is what I was talking about
unrecognizable, by the way.
Completely, because, you think it's a woman under that makeup.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Now, this is one of those scenes where you know that it's been touched by an editor because Meg is running her fingernails over Jack's shield and looking at herself in the reflection before she becomes distracted by this. And there's a little bit of dialogue, and then Jack hacks her head off. And as her body is writhing, you see the shield hanging there on a tree, which you miss. Like, when did that happen?
Like, why did that?
But you see that in the extended cut. So there's these little things that, like, these jumps that have happened because of editing. They don't really make sense upon, when you're looking at this a second or third time. So, but then we go into the layer of darkness because the goblins have not only captured the mayor and brought her back to Darkness himself, but they've also captured Lily and brought her back. And Darkness is very taken. Now, this is not the devil. Let's point that out, because he is got a boss. Tim Curry's character has a boss that he talks to in the fireplace.
Thanos,
yes. And he talks to the fire saying that, this girl, she's awakening feelings in me that I haven't felt. And
I got a tingling down there. What's going on, Dad? Well, son, you're going to get to an age.
So because she's pure of heart, so he's got to seduce her, and then like his victory will be complete. He'll seduce her, and then he'll kill the unicorn, and then
so Darkness and Jack were both after the same thing.
Yeah, right? They were both after.
Who can deflower this princess?
Yeah. All I wish is for you to sit and talk with me.
Sit. Here.
Yes.
I prefer to stand.
Silence! Or stand. As you wish.
Now let's talk about the makeup of Darkness at this point. An amazing head-to-toe, encased in makeup Tim Curry as Darkness, unrecognizable. If I didn't know that was Tim Curry, I wouldn't know what actor was under that makeup.
No, and that voice is just because he takes it down almost like 2 octaves.
And he's got the horns that come off of his head that are apparently, from looking at the bonus features, like they just weigh a matter of ounces each, because he needed to keep his head up.
Still, even then, I mean, the apparatus is just so mammoth. I think that they did mention that there's probably some kind of a support system down his spine, because it's all prosthetics. I mean, his whole full body prosthetics. I think only like his eyes and his nose and his mouth were really kind of open for being able to emote. I will say he shared the same contacts as Crowley, right?
Hopefully they've only improved over time, but they just just as painful and Good Omens.
Painful. And they were saying when all was said and done, this character is standing like 13 feet tall. Crazy.
Yeah, and apparently they in the bonus features they refer to him as having stilts. So not only does he have to carry the weight of the makeup, he's got to walk around
because he's got satyred legs. He's half goat.
Yeah.
So, and that's what you're saying before, that reveal where Lily's dancing with the evil. It's not even evil. It's just like a black dress,
like a mannequin.
Yeah, I mean, and that's very sexy. It's very kind of.
And again, this is one of the most memorable scenes in the movie, is that dance scene between her and Lily.
And then she becomes one with this thing, and then she's standing in front of the mirror, and that's where the reveal is, where he starts coming through, and you just see that massive hoof come through, and then his head. And those horns are it's so impressive. It is so, I mean, it's such a truly iconic makeup. And we mentioned this before, Rob Bottin just killed it with this. I mean, how do you even do another job after that? I know. Like, I'm done. You just pull a Costanza. I'm out of here. But everything, not just him, the whole castle. I mean, that massive fireplace, and you've got these columns, like everything is just so, the scale, and like I said, the lighting is just, it's so.
Yeah, that one room that Una, the fairy, is kind of sneaking her way through with these massive columns that look like big chess pieces.
Yeah.
It is.
Although there's a little cherub guy that kind of, well, like I think it was when Lily first comes into the room, and at first I thought he was like stop motion, but then you see him a couple other times, and I think it's just a kid dressed in costume,
like it's a statue that comes to life.
Yes,
right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I thought maybe it was stop motion the first couple times I've seen it, but now looking at it again, because you do see
no, it is definitely in the background. In the Blu-ray, he's there. He's very prominent even in the background. So I think it's just another little person, a dwarf.
Yeah. Yeah, I did pick up that Darkness Never Blinks, and I don't know if that was intentional or if he just couldn't do it with the
contacts.
Because Crowley never blinked either, so it does get a little laborious in the middle.
And that's saying something, because it's only 89 minutes.
I know, and that's where I'm like, wow, maybe they were right to cut this stuff down.
Yeah.
Because You know, when they're in the little they're trapped in the pits with the dungeon master down there. It went on a little long. He's torturing them.
And that's a very dark scene. Whenever you see those pits, it's like the kitchen of hell. I think that's what it is.
I know. He's like butchering up the guy.
And yeah, he's axing the guy that's on the table. I'm like, who's that poor guy?
Right.
And then it's got the reveal that one of the goblins is actually a dwarf or an elf that's gone bad, and like he's down in there with them in the dungeon, and he's the next one to get cooked by this Gamorrean guard looking.
That's exactly what he looked like, a Gamorrean guard. Throw him to the Sarlacc.
So there's a lot of really dark stuff in here. Then there's this other scene, just this throwaway scene where Gump and Jack are, I think it's before they get in prison or maybe after, and they're sneaking through the castle, and all these like mole people come out of the ground. And
that's right. Yes. Yeah.
And they're all like berserker style running after them, and then they just escape the room.
Disappear. Yeah.
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 So all these like little throwaway action sequences that are stuck here and there in the midst of all this beauty. So it's,
it is. I can't say it's. The whole movie itself is just so atmospheric, and it really is a testament to Ridley Scott's vision. You know, I mean, don't take anything away from any of the other artisans or the production people who made it realized. I mean, you know, they're sculpting live trees, they're putting live trees into this environment, the snow, the lighting. So don't just dismiss this. Don't tell me that
absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's it is of its time, but it's timeless at the same time.
I don't feel like there's certain movies in the 80s you can look at and you're like, oh, this is such an 80s movie. And outside of Tom Cruise being as young as he is, to me, it's timeless.
Well, the Tangerine Dream score is kind of mired in that 80s.
But see, but it's not like I ever owned a Tangerine Dreams album outside of maybe the soundtrack to this.
Right.
You know, and I did go to school on Long Island where, you know, alt music was pretty popular out there, but then I'll just watch the Goldsmith version, I guess. So it really is a beautiful work of art. It
is. And the climax of the movie is the Jack Darkness battle. Jack rescues the horn. It goes into a boiling pit, and he reaches his hand and grabs it, but he's not burned because and he throws it and guts Darkness with it. So that's when the battle turns.
And meanwhile, and then Gump is filling him with arrows too.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of really nice scenes where he's just charging after Jack and
like a bull, like the horns, impale the wall right behind Jack. So Jack's head is right between his two horns, and that's a great visual as well.
Yeah.
And then, as you said,
it is very visual. The
very end of the movie is where Darkness is giving his farewell speech, and I guess he's got like a portal to outer space.
Yeah, because they're inside a tree or something. So he's like,
so he can look out on the vast darkness of outer space. Maybe this calms him. Maybe this is his meditation room or something. Mm-hmm. So Darkness is on the edge of this portal, and he's got the unicorn horn in his hand because he's taken it out of his gut, and you just hear that fingernails on a chalkboard sound as his long talons are scratching against the stones.
Slowly getting blown out.
And then Jack amputates his hand that's holding the horn, and then they use
the shields too, which is if you go back to the beginning of the movie when Jack and Lily are in the forest and she holds up a charm and it shines in his eyes, and they went to the extent of actually re-showing this, like for him to, you know, like a little foreshadowing. He's like, oh, that's how I'm going to do it. So they use these shields to reflect the sun as it's setting, because once the sun sets, it's all over. Darkness is now going to take over. He's going to kill the other unicorn, and that's going to be it. And so they use these shields as like reflectors to bring the sun up. So not only does he chop off his hand, but then he gets blasted with a ray of light that just catapults him out into the space. And he splits into like 5 stars.
Yes.
Did you pick up on the significance? I don't know what the significance of that is, unless you're going to tell me there's some constellation out there, 5-star constellation that's called Darkness or.
Yeah, no, I have no idea.
Red Dude. I don't know either. I don't know what the significance was, but there's nothing more I can say about this movie.
Yeah. Now, some fun facts. I'm sure you heard this bit in the behind the scenes as well, that Mickey Rooney was considered as one of the goblins.
I was the #1 star in the world. You hear me? Bang! The world.
And he was too tall. He was too tall.
And Tom Cruise is not very tall, so he's kind of short in stature. They needed somebody that Tom Cruise would kind of tower over. But I can't imagine that. Mickey Rooney overacting in the Goblin. Yeah.
Oh, Mickey Rooney. That would have been great.
Give me Keith Richards any day over Mickey. Let's go back into the different versions of this. The UK version was released in December 1985, and this was released in the UK and in Europe with the Jerry Goldsmith score intact. It wasn't the full director's cut. It was a 93-minute cut that Ridley cut down from his 115-minute original cut. And again, this was Ridley's self-editing. This was not the studio telling him what to do.
Well, you know why he did that, right? It was because they had test screenings.
But no, it didn't come up. That didn't come up yet because after after they premiered it in the UK with the Goldsmith score, then they brought it over to the US, and that's when those test screenings took place.
Oh, okay. Because he blames it on these pot smoking screeners who ruined it. They were like heckling, and he got all like, maybe it is too long. Maybe I need to cut this.
So that's when he also took out the Goldsmith score and put in the Tangerine because he wanted it more rock and roll, he said, for the American audience.
Entice the youth.
So that's why there's a 4-month disconnect in between the UK release and the US release. The US release didn't come out until April 86. That's because
I'm surprised the studio even let him do that because it's I don't think it was a hit, was it?
No, it wasn't at all. I think it was a $24.5 million budget. It made 15.5 in the U.S. box office and 23 total worldwide. So it did not make its money back.
So it was already losing money in the UK. At what point were the studios like, yeah, you can retool this. We're already losing enough money.
Yeah, and I remember reading those bad reviews. Did not matter to me in the slightest when I saw
No, I don't think I paid attention to reviews back then.
Yeah.
Nor do I try to now. And again, we talk about this all the time, which is I can hate a good movie and I love a bad movie.
Yeah.
And this, good or bad, this movie really spoke to me as an artist and as somebody who just saw this for what it was, that it was unlike anything we had seen. Yeah, it's phenomenal work.
Yeah, for me, in the late 70s, early 80s, you had a glut of blockbuster movies that you could just lose yourself in. You obviously had the Star Wars trilogy. You had Close Encounters. Even earlier, you had Jaws. You had Jaws 2. You had every year there seemed to be a huge, great movie that was put out.
86 was a big
Raiders,
year.
All this stuff. But I think around 85, that's when it started to dilute for me because I think you had the last gasp of that blockbuster era with Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and Gremlins in 84. 85, you had Goonies. That was like, I think the big...
Back to the Future. Back to the
Future, yes. I'm sorry. It slowed down is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
Legend was really like a throwback for me to those early days of these late 70s, early 80s, of those magical movies like E.T., Raiders of the Lost Ark, that type of thing, where you lose yourself watching this movie into this world.
Right.
Every scene is like a work of art. You could freeze frame any moment in Legend, and it's like a work of art.
Agreed. You know, we talked about the Cruise stuff. He did lose his dad while he was filming this, so that, to me, may have played in a part of why he's kind of disconnected himself from this movie. But again, without him actually coming out and kind of...
Yeah, and according to Wikipedia, he has gone on record to say that if somebody is going to go back and watch Legend, to watch the director's cut and not the U.S. version.
Oh, really?
Yes. I don't know when or where he said that.
He cared enough about that, huh?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So apparently he watched at some point the director's cut.
Well, maybe I'll need to watch it. One more thing, which is the end credits. You get that Tangerine Dream John Anderson song.
Oh, yes.
Loved by the Sun. So that is not on the director's cut because that would be all Jerry Goldsmith.
Yeah, it is not. It is not. And so the John Anderson song and the Brian Ferry song are not to be found. Yeah. They're not to be found in the...
Oh, wow. See, that does kind of... To me, that kind of... It's like a nice little... You know, because John Anderson's voice is so recognizable as the lead singer of Yes, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes.
And I remember that Brian Ferry video for Is Your Love Strong Enough with a lot of scenes from the movie, and that just whet my appetite for this movie, seeing that video and loving that song. It is a great song.
Yeah.
Always
that's like every
this movie.
Yeah, well, that's every Queen song in the Highlander. I got to go at least. What do you give? I gave 4.25 for Good Omens. I got to go at least 4.25 on this.
Yeah, I'm doing 4.5 on this.
4.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is special.
Yeah, this is very close to a 5 bucket for me, but as you said, it does get a little bit draggy story-wise.
Right. Yeah.
So,
it's like, all right, let's get to it.
Yeah, exactly. But that shouldn't put anybody off. Still, if you've never seen Legend, go watch it. You'll do yourself a favor. So this leads us to our confessional this week.
Confessionals.
Now, what have we decided? I know we put out there, we could...
I like the idea. Let's go with Tom Cruise, because there's a good chance that we may not talk about him again.
Okay.
It really depends. You had mentioned before about the fact that Mickey Rooney, and I was looking up, because it dawned on me that this was pre-Top Gun, and the fact that he worked with Tony Scott, which is Ridley Scott's brother, right after this. And so I started reading in, who is it, Kelly McGillis?
Yeah.
He plays opposite.
Yeah.
There's certain scenes where they actually had to dig her a trench so that she's about 4 inches shorter than he is. So when they're doing their lines, he stands over her. He's like 5'2".
He is. He's quite small. Yes. He's quite small.
That's why you'll see a lot of upshots in Tom Cruise movies.
Yeah.
Can we get Tom's stool on stage? So, yes, favorite Tom Cruise movie? I got a couple here. I like Tom Cruise. I really like him as an actor. I'm going to go every Mission Impossible movie I really like. My favorite is Ghost Protocol. But if I had to choose one, and it's more genre, it is Edge of Tomorrow.
That's a very good one. I like that one too.
I like that a lot. I like the premise of it. I like his character, the take. But I will give props to 2 others, which is his cameo in Tropic Thunder, which I didn't even realize was him until the end credits. And he absolutely steals that movie.
He does.
And he's great because he's just a potty mouth. Excuse my French. But if you've never seen this movie, I didn't write down what year it came out, but it was pretty recent. And I think it's on Netflix. It's called American Made. And it's based on a true story about this.
Yeah, I've seen it. As a drug runner, right?
Yeah, he drug runs. Well done. Really liked it. And he's not necessarily a likable character, but you can't help but kind of root for Tom Cruise when you see him on screen. So Edge of Tomorrow is my top, but America Made is definitely worth checking out.
You see, now I'm going to go Interview with a Vampire.
I knew you were going to go with that one.
I love that movie.
And I have not seen it in quite some time. So
yeah. See, I was a big fan of the original trilogy by Anne Rice, and I had read those before seeing this movie. And just like Anne Rice, she really denounced the casting of Tom Cruise as Lestat and Brad Pitt as Louis.
And Brad Pitt really wasn't that big of a name then, was he?
No, he wasn't. He was maybe coming off of
Thelma and
Louise, True Romance. I think he was in California with David Duchovny. He was in. And that was pretty much... Oh, and Legends of the Fall. I think.
I can't watch that movie. The last 10 minutes, I bawl like a baby.
Yeah, that's where Brad Pitt was coming from. So I was down with Anne Rice saying he could never do this, meaning Tom Cruise. And then I went to go see the movie, I think, opening weekend, and I was blown away. It was great in this movie. And I was so upset that they never, ever did a sequel to... they never did The Vampire Lestat, which is the second novel in her original trilogy. I think he did a great job, and so did Brad Pitt, as far as I'm concerned. Loved that movie. Loved it.
I might have to revisit that.
So
what year was that?
That was 1994. It came out.
94.
Yeah.
It's a lifetime ago, huh?
Yes, it was.
Crazy.
And I'm also going to give props to Magnolia, where Tom Cruise also has a small part. It's an ensemble movie, and he's like a Tony Robbins type motivational
speaker.
Yeah, so I always liked him in that as well.
Yeah. Cool. There's a lot of Tom Cruise stuff out there. Rain Man just was edged out. I went more genre-driven.
Oh, you weren't going to go Cocktail?
Listen, Cocktail's it's entertaining. A Few Good Men was also up there as well.
Yeah, A Few Good Men is very good. He's very good in that.
Yeah, it's very good in that. So
you forget some of the movies that he was in.
Ones. Yeah, War of the Worlds. I'll stop and watch that every time it's on. Ray is an absolute jerk. His character. Kids hate him. The aliens hate him. No one likes him. All right, that's it. I think we've exhausted this.
We have. But let's talk about next week. Exciting.
Wait, what's...
Our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man is back.
I love the fact that they're just completely embracing that Spider-Man theme song from the 60s cartoons.
Absolutely. Yeah, you need to. You really need to.
I'm excited for this. There's already some early buzz out there, some early screenings, and really kind of touting this, that this is a perfect kind of farewell to this Infinity Gauntlet series, or whatever they want to call it.
Yeah, and from what I understand from looking at the trailers that play constantly now on TV, and if you go to the movies, you can't miss it. They're really building up this Mysterio Spider-Man like bonding thing.
Yeah, no, I don't buy it for a minute, because what's Mysterio's power? Is illusion.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to call it right now that those 4 elementals that you see, the big fight, that he causes it. He is creating those illusions.
Now, of course,
for whatever reason.
Mysterio played by Jake Gyllenhaal.
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Are we going to tie it in somehow?
I think we have to. We have to.
All right.
Did we agree that it was going to be Donnie Darko, or are we going to go Bubble Boy?
Well, you called it, so it's up to you. If you want to go Darko,
I want to go Donnie Darko, because there may not be another shot at us talking about that.
Okay.
Let's do it. That's a movie that really stuck with me. Not necessarily talk about illusions. We got a whole hallucination theme going on next week.
Now, I've only seen Donnie Darko once, back in probably 2002, 2003, whenever it first came out. So it's going to be interesting to watch this again.
Let's put it that.
Yeah.
So there you go. And maybe we'll have Mike back with us. I think Mike will come back for Spider-Man. Yeah.
All right.
Cool. Thank you for listening.
We'll see you next week.
You got it.
Bye.
Ciao.
Stay clear of toadstool rings and willow trees and old oaks.
Well, I mean, but, man,